Now, I know there's going to be quite a few of you who are probably like, Cowboy, why are you releasing a Division 1 build video? The game's dead, no one's playing it, it doesn't matter. And to be honest, yeah, it probably doesn't really matter for most people. But again, I don't really make videos just because I want everybody to watch them and, become the biggest YouTuber. I make them because I enjoy them. I make them because I think, sometimes I offer some good insight that maybe people don't just realize. Sometimes I want people just to go back and experience the Division. And this is kind of one of those cases. I want people to go back, play Division 1, see the power that you had in that game. See some of the differences between Division 2. Look at the way that they kind of structured the different stats and the different abilities and stuff like that. Just to get a good comparison to how the game's played, and maybe, hopefully in the future, have those people become players who advocate for a better game design, for a more fun and, I guess, enjoyable system just overall. Now, of course, in many ways, Division 2 does make life a little bit easier. It does simplify some things, and some people might prefer that aspect of the game. I generally don't. I like it a little bit complicated. I like it a little bit more detailed. I like, a lot of the choice in the stat system, just not just making it so basic as just a simple weapon damage buff or a simple, like skill tier system. I like a little bit more intricacies there. And I think Division 1 offered a lot more of that than Division 2 did. Now, in this video, I'm looking at my D3 build. And pretty much this build I used for everything. I used it for PvP, I used it for legendaries, I loved it in pretty much all content. Now, you might want to finagle some things around depending on your preferences, but to be honest, the way that I have it set up, while some people may not see it as the most efficient or the optimal way to do it, it generally allowed me to just hop in and out of content without needing to actually change things on the build. So I think that was probably one of the main reasons why I just kept it like this. So looking at the build here, what I've got is, of course, I've got the house and I've got the PP-19. Now, the PP-19 is probably my favorite submachine gun in the Division. Now, with the house and with the PP-19, you can see I've invested my talents mostly in the health regen style of talents. So I've got sustained, I've got predatory, and of course I've got card counter on my house. Now, I did a very poor job here of actually showing the mods, or at least the weapon attachments that I was using. PP-19, self-preserved, predatory, and my third talent is hurried. Now, hurried gives me basically 10% reduction in reload speed for every critical hit that I get. So on an SMG, I think that comes in really handy. And with my magazine size of like 117 rounds, this is a beast of a weapon. Now, like I said, I did a very poor job here of actually scrolling down, and that's just because, going into the game again, this is some of the first footage that I actually recorded, and I was kind of a little bit off on my control stick. I wasn't having a very masterful time of scrolling down. It was awkward. So I apologize for that. But pretty much everything you need to know about the weapons, like I said, my talents are designed to give me health back on kill or on crit. And my mods are pretty much designed around giving me crit chance, a little bit of crit damage, and magazine size. That's basically the bare bones of it. Now, jumping into my first piece of armor, you can see I'm using 6 piece of the D3-FNC, which is basically the tankiest build in the game. Now, some people may like the striker build. Obviously, that does give you that nice healing if you get all those stacks, but I think just D3 was the epitome of a tank build. Now, the main thing that you're going to see with D3, at least the most important aspect of it, is probably the 6 piece, because at 6 pieces, you end up getting a 200% shield health buff whenever you're over 9,000 stamina. So this is probably the most important aspect of a shield build in this game. Just getting that health increase because you really, really need it. Now, if you're playing in a team, and a lot of times if you're playing in Legendary, that's of course what you're going to be doing. This gives you an incredible team buff. So you can pretty much just soak up bullets, but when you soak up bullets, you end up giving your teammates a 30% damage reduction bonus. So anytime you get shot by bullets or just physical damage, you get that 30% armor increase. whenever you get hit by something that does exotic damage, think sticky bombs, seeker mines, any sort of status effect, related ability, that kind of stuff, or grenades as well. What you're going to get is a 30% weapon damage buff. So if you're pushing up with your team, getting all these buffs for them, you're giving them defense and offense, and it's a good amount too. So this build can really come in handy because obviously, like I said, you're soaking up this damage, and you're also giving your team a damage boost. So honestly, I really think that D3, Reclaimer, maybe Predator, some Striker, Nomad as well. I think these kind of form the backbone of the iconic builds in the division. Now, it might seem a little bit strange, some of the stats that I'm using. I do have exotic damage resistance. I do have skill power. I do have skill haste. I tried to actually make this a very tanky build. So what my overall goal was kind of trying to be tanky enough in a lot of different aspects. This build was a great counter for the Predator's Mark build. So if you were fighting a 6-piece Predator Mark build, you would take very little damage from the bleed. And that's because I've got this bleed resistance, I've got exotic damage resistance, I've got my ballistic shield damage reduction. There's just a lot of aspects here that give me that damage reduction. So some of my stats to look at, I'm hitting about 40% crit chance, which, obviously I'm not going for a damage build, and I only want those crits just to basically give me more healing. So that's pretty much the whole role of those crits. I have basically just enough skill power to max out my shield. I've got a lot of toughness and health, so, that just makes me a tank. Then, of course, I've got 30% protection from elites, which, combined with all my other bonuses, is incredibly helpful. 24% exotic damage resilience, and then of course I've got like 33% bleed resistance and I think 33% burn resistance. So when you combine those all together, it does make it a very effective thing for fighting skill builds. It does make it a very effective build for fighting Predator's Mark. It does make it a very effective build for legendaries, and I actually really like it to fight Deadeye builds. Now if you didn't know, Deadeye builds are the super crit sniper build of the game. What the build allows you to do is whenever you're in cover, you end up having 100% crit chance with marksman weapons. So this makes them incredibly friendly to use, rather easy to use, pretty fun to use, but it does make them very deadly. And really the only effective way to actually get past them is to have a build that can just straight up tank through them. A lot of the times you'll see Nomad doing that pretty well. Or if somebody can dance really well, they can, get close enough to actually kill them. But I think D3 definitely does a good job of allowing you to push up. And of course, if they're going to be shooting your shield, then you're going to be proccing that buff for your team, which is just all the more benefit. Now, looking at my skills themselves, I am using the reactive targeting shield. And you can see here the health on that shield is 2.35 million. My damage increases 10%, and my damage resistance while that shield is out is 45%. And of course, I've got a pretty good cooldown of 23.4 seconds. Now, when you use D3, they kind of disable all of the benefits of the different shield mods. So it doesn't really matter which shield you use, except there is a very important reason why I use the reactive targeting mod. Because unlike all of the other shields, this one has a slight hidden buff that most people don't realize. Now, if you look here, what you're going to see is when I pull out the shield, you can see there's a slight little wing that sticks out, right next to my weapon. So there's a tad bit of extra shield. If you compare it to a different shield, you don't have that wing. So this means that the reactive targeting shield actually provides more protection than any other shield in the game. So even if all the benefits and all the the differences are kind of changed or nerfed because you're running the D3 build, that benefit, that little extra strip of protection still exists, which it might not be much, but every little bit helps. Now looking at my support station, obviously the healing rate isn't that good. Most important thing is just the fact that I can cancel status effects, and I have a 25-second cooldown, which for a non-healing build, and non-skill build really, is actually pretty good because of all that skill haste that I've got on there. So I can, I don't want to say spam this, but I can use this quite often enough to actually, make a difference. Now looking at my actual talents, this is something that I really miss in Division 2. I really like this feature. But what I've got equipped is I got Critical Save, which gives me 20% damage resistance for 10 seconds whenever I use a med kit at low health. Combat Medic, which basically gives me the ability to heal teammates within 20 meters by 40% whenever I use a med kit. I've got Strike Back, which whenever I reach low health, I get 20% reduction in my cooldowns. And then for my final one is I've got Precision, which allows me to pulse a hostile whenever I get a headshot on them. So, that just gives me a little bit more crit chance to, again, heal myself with all those talents that I have on my weapons. Now, of course, there are some other options that you might consider using, but overall, I really like what I have. I think it works out really well with this build because obviously my purpose is being the tank. It's kind of saving the day. And I'm going to be popping medkits a lot because the medkits heal my shield. So whenever I pop a medkit, if my shield's getting low, I can, pop that medkit, bring my shield back up pretty well. And of course, I'm also healing any teammates that are near me that have taken damage. And of course, if you're running in a team with another D3 build, which I've done a few times, the ability to just kind of constantly be healing each other's shields whenever you're popping these medkits is fantastic. Now, one of the main differences I think that's probably sets my build apart a lot from a lot of the other combinations that you'll see. Generally, a lot of people try to sneak in as much firearms in their D3 builds as they can. I don't really care that much. Now, if I needed to in the PvE realm, I could probably pump in some more. And the reason I keep it at 9,900 is because when you enter something like Skirmish or Last Stand, where it actually balances all of the stat systems, so all of the classified kind of lose a little bit of their power. And then if you didn't have this much, what would end up happening is it would drop you down below that 9,000 stamina. So it's kind of like when I would enter Skirmish, I would end up having like 9,100. If I didn't have that much, I would end up going to like 8,500. And then I would lose a lot of those bonuses to my D3 build. Now, some of the sacrifices I've made was I went into a little bit more skill haste, and that's in case my shield does go down, I can get it that much quicker. And I can also get the immunizer, or just the healing box that prevents status effects, a little bit quicker. So it does give me a little bit better healing. It does give me, a faster shield in case I lose it. That's pretty much why I went into the skill haste. Now I've also gone with mods that have exotic damage resilience. Again, if I'm fighting skill builds, that gives me, additional protection from sticky bombs or turrets. I've also got my, I think probably one of the most overlooked pieces, which is the performance mod ballistic shield damage resilience. Now, since I can have 4 of those mods on there, I end up getting 20% extra damage resilience on my build. Now, when you combine that with the D3 set, I end up getting like 45% damage mitigation when I have my shield on. So I get the 33.5% from my actual armor, which is, so 33% of weapon damage is mitigated. Then I get 45% of extra damage that is mitigated from the shield just by having it on. And of course, if I do get into a low health situation, pop a medkit, I get 20% damage mitigation from my perk. And then I also get 30% damage mitigation from the actual gear set itself, giving, whenever I take enough damage on my shield, it gives me that 30% damage mitigation or 30% armor. So that's pretty much just a huge buff. It's insane how much damage I can actually take and soak up, which, again, is the point of this build. That's why I like this build so much. Now, honestly, when D3 came out, when the Classified came out, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Basically, what ended up happening was the developers decided that the shield could be made too strong by skill builds, and what they ended up doing was they basically just nerfed the shield altogether. So it's kind of like a lesson that they implemented in Division 2, where the blue rolls, your armor rolls, would actually give you shield tiers. Well, what ended up happening was they nerfed the shield in Division 1 so that skill power only basically gave you the max shield health at like 125k, which isn't very much. And the actual health on the shield itself was pretty terrible. It wasn't very good. I think it was the highest health shield was like 650,000. And of course, if you're going for a tank build, that's not necessarily the way that you want to play. You'd rather sacrifice getting, damage for a very tanky shield so you can actually go up, tank the enemies, distract the enemies, cover your teammates, revive people that are, in the open, that kind of thing. And this is what D3 allowed you to do. Now, like I was saying, when they nerfed the shields, I was kind of mad at this set because I thought, this is the reason they nerfed the shields, just so they can put this build in here and make shields feel special for D3. And of course, I had a lot of other shield builds that I really enjoyed playing with. And, this kind of ruined all the other shield builds. So that was kind of one of the things I didn't like about this. I kind of blamed the shield nerf on D3. But, after actually using it, after actually playing with it enough, I really do like the set, especially in team play. But anyway, I hope you guys are actually giving D1 a try. I know D2 is a lot of people's favorite at the moment, and, that's where everyone is. Maybe, you're just bored of it. Maybe you want to get in Division 1. Look, Division 1 still is playable. Now, of course, you may not find people actively playing in a lot of this early, story missions and stuff like that. Most players have moved on to the end game. So, if you're not level 30 doing, World Tier 5 legendaries, you're probably not going to find many people. Now, you can still find people occasionally. Sometimes, obviously, the best chances on the weekends. But there are still people that are active and playing, and I can matchmake for legendaries, pretty easily. Happens all the time. And it's an enjoyable experience. It's something different than Division 2, and I honestly enjoy it more than Division 2. But even if you don't, even if you, just decide that you have no interest in it, you're already done with it, you're not going to go back, hey, I still appreciate you watching the video. So thank you guys very much. I'll see you in the next one.
You have 10 kills remaining. You're wiping the floor with